In thinking about what you just said and 61 years as a minimum of engagement, what then would be your advice to someone like me who's just at the beginning of my career? What would be your advice to how to sustain a career in academia and in ancient history more specifically?
There is no career.
Okay, so I'll start with that.
Abandon the idea.
Okay.
But apply for jobs, obviously.
Yes.
And I didn't even do that. As happens to many people, I was shoehorned into this, that and the other thing. My first teaching appointment was offered to me. In other words, they weren't bothering with advertising. It was a national matter in New Zealand.
In Canterbury, was it?
Yes, well,
yep.
All the New Zealand university colleges were part of a single University of New Zealand. And I think what they did was simply, they all examined each other's work, so they knew for the whole country who was up to what stage in their work, and I was simply offered a job as what was called a junior lecturer with no tenure.
Okay.
And Ernst Badian, who was 2 or 3 years ahead of me, had been offered the same job.
Fantastic.
At the same time in his
wow.
career. And this was how we began. And this is roughly how people begin now. They go on now to a higher degree. Of course, there were no higher degrees at that time in our culture. But people were brought in as low-grade temporary teachers. And it happens like this now, that one gets offered part-time or temporary things.
Yes.
But at that point, you've got to start applying for things,
yes.
I think. And certainly, my appointments in history, of course, I obtained because I applied for them.
Okay.
But I had no expectation or assurance that that would be possible.
Okay.
It's just when circumstances presented themselves,
you
go for it. Let me say I've applied for many things, which I did not get.
And how did you cope with that? How did you process that?
I just shrugged it off and
on to the next one.
waited for the next chance. You
Okay.
should keep applying.
Absolutely.
And gradually you'll sort out. What I'm really saying is there isn't a career such as there is in medicine that you can plan. Because it's always taken for granted there's plenty of employment, going to be plenty of employment for doctors and so on.
Of course.
There isn't an academic career that you can plan for. At every point, selectivity applies. And you can't judge yourself whether you're going to be selected.
That's right.
And one shouldn't grieve as though something's gone wrong when people don't select you. Because you don't know on what criteria they were really working. You don't know what the candidate who was chosen had that appealed to them, and the things aren't predeterminable. There aren't entitlements in this matter. It's actually a sad mistake, I think, for people to think that academic life is a career for which you can plan and to which, after investment of many years, you have a right to expect something. It's a sad experience when you end up in that predicament, and that's why it's crucial not to bother with it at all unless you really want to deal with the ideas, the study. And if in fact nobody employs you to do that, well then keep doing it while earning your bread and butter some other way.
Exactly. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. But I like that underpinning the tenacious approach that you've described is a great, not only obviously a great passion for the subject matter, but also a great sense of adventure in almost knowing to expect the unexpected. And I think most historians could probably characterise themselves as adventurers in that way.
Yeah, well, I'd never thought of it as that exciting. But in terms of unplanned, yes, it is an unplanned way of life.
Uncharted territories.
The last thing I would have planned would come into Australia. Can you imagine a New Zealander wanting to come to Australia? But thousands come because they've not got no jobs. That's where they go.
We're very glad you didn't.
I'm not trying to go back.
Glad, very glad. I think that there would be a a barricade put up. No one would let you go, Professor. No one would let you go.
Well, I have applied for jobs in New Zealand, but my wife said she can go without me. We grew up together in New Zealand.
Oh, and she liked it here?
She liked it here.
Oh,
I think that's why she married me.
Oh, lovely.
But,